next book in this Star Wars new canon series that I'm doing is going to be Tarkin, which is a book about Grand Moff Tarkin, who is the famous tactician and commander of the Death Star that you see in Star Wars A New Hope. And this book essentially follows his early life and career during the waning days of the Old Republic and the first few years of the rise of the Empire. So, what's interesting about this book is it takes place during a period where you really don't see the perspective of that many non-Force users. So he's just he's a guy that's in the Republic. He serves during the Clone Wars, and in the show Clone Wars, he's actually a secondary character for some of them. So it's interesting to see just kind of what he is and his interactions with then Senator Palpatine and Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. So it's kind of interesting, the Emperor kind of nurturing like-minded kind of people, and as well as him seeing the corruption, bloat, and ineffectiveness of the Republic, which is definitely completely fair, because the fact that the whole Phantom Menace Trade Federation, like the fact that something like that could happen and that there was really no Republic military to kind of counteract stuff like that, just really shows how ineffective that they were, as well as just, I'm sure you would have corruption in any kind of democratic body that's that large and that old and that much despairing of the wealth and power of the different planets. So it's definitely really interesting, and it shows how the population could be willing to try something new if there were problems with the Republic, and maybe the hope that the Empire would be better. So like Lords of the Sith, this is another buddy cop. It's this time Vader and Tarkin roaming the galaxy, solving cases together. Except this time, Vader is the bad cop. They're both evil. Tarkin's evil, don't get me wrong. But Tarkin is evil only when it's worth his time, while Vader's really willing to give that extra 110% for the sake of the Empire. Lords of the Sith, the Emperor was definitely the one who was particularly brutal, who had even more disregard for life. But between these two, Vader is definitely the one that's more willing to torture, more willing to kill, more willing to, go ahead and torture these people if maybe one of them gives you some information, even though most of them are probably innocent. So it's just another bad cop, worst cop, buddy cop. They do a great job. So as shown at the end of episode 3, the Death Star is under construction, and friends and foes know that something is up, but they're not exactly sure what. And the person who is in charge for at least part of the construction is Tarkin. And after reading this book, I'm actually even more excited for Rogue One, since this is actually going to take place during a very similar timeline of the final... this is still the early stages of construction, and Rogue One is going to be events leading up to the stealing of the Death Star plan. So it really shows how secretive this was, and how Tarkin really wants to focus on this and get this right, and how ruling through fear of power is better than ruling through power, because the galaxy is just too big to put a several mile long Star Destroyer in orbit of every planet. So this fear of this battle station will keep the other planets in line. At least that's what he was hoping for. So I really enjoyed this book. It wasn't nearly as compelling as Lost Stars or Lords of the Sith. I still enjoyed it. It really doesn't give that much of a lead up to episode 7. This is more of a lead up to Rogue One. Definitely read this book. It was interesting, but it's not a must read, and it really doesn't have anything to offer for if you're only interested in stuff that will give you hints of The Force Awakens. For that, I would recommend once again Lost Stars. So that's the end of my brief summary. I'm going to go ahead and go into some very minor spoilers, just more of the insights and the canon that we learned into this book. That if you want to know that aspect of it without having to read the whole book, I perfectly understand, and I'm more than willing to tell you. So essentially, unbeknownst to the Jedi, there's this Sith artifact underneath the Jedi temple that was corrupting and clouding their ability to use the Force. Which to me screams retcon, but oh well. Like, there's a Sith artifact down there now. And so the Emperor is actually trying to excavate this, and he's really focused onto this task to the point where his personal palace is actually made from the Jedi Temple. And even Vader is unaware of the Sith artifact. And essentially, Palpatine is more or less like bugged of the day-to-day running of the Empire when he's really interested in increasing his power of the dark side, as well as finding out this Sith artifact and unlocking more knowledge and more power for himself. So that's one aspect that was definitely really interesting. It once again reinforces that people know that something's weird about Vader, whether or not who he is. Tarkin, just being as intelligent as he guessed that it's Anakin Skywalker, but even he's not sure, and most people in the Empire definitely don't know he's Anakin Skywalker. Tarkin mostly knows because he interacted with both Anakin and Vader, and he can tell some similarities in their lightsaber skills and piloting skills, as well as he knew that Anakin and the Emperor and the Supreme Chancellor were close, and then suddenly Anakin's just gone. So he was able to put that together, and he suspects that the Emperor is the Sith just because the weird interactions that they have with each other, but it really shows that it's really the people who are only really close to them and are particularly intelligent know that the vast population does not know that Palpatine is a Force user, which is reinforced in Lords of the Sith as well. So that's definitely interesting. In this book, they also confirm that Palpatine was Darth Plagueis' apprentice and that he killed him. In the Revenge of the Sith, he just mentions that his apprentice betrayed and murdered Darth Plagueis, and that he was searching for, but he never explicitly said he was that apprentice. Now we do know. Unfortunately they don't give any kind of physical traits to him. In the other EU books that are no longer canon, he was a Mun, which was part of the intergalactic banking race that are particularly tall, and they have long faces, and a lot of people think that that's who Andy Serkis's character is under Force Unleashed, but unfortunately they really don't give enough information to even confirm that. So maybe by the time I even get this uploaded, we will know that already, but there's not that much new canon stuff in terms of The Force Awakens. But who knows, maybe in episode 8 or 9 they will head back to Coruscant and liberate it or something. But that's about it. So good book. I enjoyed it, but not as good as the other two. So read Lost Stars and Lords of the Sith first. But still interesting. Bye.